Hello everyone. I, Varun Agarwal, welcome you all to another web panel discussion organized by ETCIO in partnership with IBM. And today's topic of discussion is re-engineering insurance for post-COVID-19 future. Insurance companies across the world have directly or indirectly felt the impact of COVID-19 on their businesses. Not only are insurers experiencing pressure on their workforce arising from the lockdown, but are also contending with higher coverage disputes. This scenario has accelerated the adoption of digital transformation in the industry. As a part of this digital transformation, insurers will have to ensure workforce enablement while radically lowering their cost structure and building resilience. So, in today's panel discussion, we will discuss some of the best practices for the insurance sector and gain some actionable recommendations for now as well as for the pandemic. Without further ado, let me introduce you to our to our eminent panel. The first on the panel, we have Srinivasan Iyengar, who's the CEO of Reliance Life Nippon Insurance. Welcome, Srini.
Hi.
Hi. The second speaker of the day is Biju Joseph, who's the CTO for Future Generali India Insurance. Welcome, Biju.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Our next speaker of the day is Anand Pejawar, who's the President Operations, IT and International Business at SBI Life Insurance. Welcome, Anand.
Hi, hi Varun, how are you?
Hi. Our next speaker of the day is Seema Gaur, who's the Executive Director IT at IFCO Tokyo General Insurance. Welcome, Seema.
Hello, everybody.
Next, we have Mr. Arif Syed, who's the CTO for Bharti AXA General Insurance. Welcome, Arif.
Hi, Varun. Hi, everyone.
Last but not the least, we also have Shailendra Singh, who's the Vice President Financial Services Sector Global Business Services at IBM India, South Asia. Welcome, Shailendra.
Hi, Varun. How are you?
Great, great. So, Mr. Iyengar, let me begin this discussion with you. One of the basic challenges that we are seeing in the economy right now vary from industry to industry. So, to talk about the insurance sector, if you could help us understand what are the specific areas within insurance which are facing a turbulent time, and which sectors do you see actually performing better right now?
Yeah. So I would face this pandemic related impact in two parts. First is March end to April, which has been pretty much of a shock for everybody in the industry. It doesn't matter whether you are in the life, general, or in the health insurance space. So if we keep that aside for a minute, the impact has been different across different industries. So for example, there has been a surge in interest on the health insurance side, as is expected. In any pandemic, people realize more the value of health first, and that's been a big benefit onto the health related business. The second is when it comes to life insurance. The life insurance has been the second impacted area in terms of people also realizing, apart from health, is the importance of life insurance, both from a savings point of view as well as from a point of view of the life cover that it enables to protect their family should something happen to them. So in this duration, we have seen a blip in April. The whole industry went through a big churn in April. May was sort of slowly coming back, and I think June has seen some comeback in the industry. And it has been, I would say, so far we are on to the positive trend as an industry is concerned. And it has, I wouldn't say helped, because helped is not an appropriate word, but it's enabled the insurance to reach more number of masses, because there has also been a pull from the customer side.
Absolutely. Let's take some perspectives from Biju as well. Biju, do you concur with Srini on this, and what is your specific view on the impact?
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, so you put it right way. So there is a huge impact on the, in terms of the where the customers are looking at insurers, from the protection side. I mean, they want really feel the needs of protecting their families now. That's very warm welcome. And the shift towards health is the major encouraging part. So any product which is protecting the lives of the customers as well as towards protecting their hospitalization was seen a surge in whether inquiry or even number of quotes generated. And we have seen a number of inquiry on the digital platform is also drastically increased. That means it's not an age barrier anymore. Earlier we used to believe youngsters come and inquire about digital product, but it's now situation forces or maybe customers become aware about how to navigate through and understand about it. And of course the regulators new support on having COVID coverages on the infusion of the product will help further. So there is a drastic increase in awareness without any marketing aspects. That is one positive outcome from this particular event. This wouldn't have been possible without probably this situations. So that's what my assessment is.
Well, so it's great for some and not so great for some other sectors. Actually, it's within the segment we are talking about. So, Seema, in general insurance, what kind of impact have you seen? And apart from the business just getting impacted, if you can talk about, how, what kind of digital transformation that you're seeing at your organization?
To talk of the pandemic impact, I would say as general insurance companies, we were more relying on motor insurance. So in the month of April, we saw very few, rather zero new vehicles being sold in Indian market. No personal cars were sold. So the personal car new business was drastically came down. It came down to such a low extent that we were we could not complete our targets by almost 20% because of the motor business being hampered. And apart from that, when you talk of renewals, the renewals also most of the Indian mindset, because the regulators had given them a freedom of having a break-in period of 1 month. They were not interested in renewing the vehicles, saying that when it comes on road, we will get it renewed, and as such, there was a relaxation. So that was one area which was impacted. And as told by Biju and Shini, our health, we did find some increase, but in the month of April, it was down. Gradually, in the month of May and June, when the market started opening, you found more vehicles on the road, and health awareness started coming up in the minds of people that it could happen with anybody else. So that is where we found interest in health, and at the same time, motor also started picking up. As regards digital, yes, we had made it a point right from beginning that we should discourage check collections, and cash collections should not be allowed at all, because it was not possible for our people to be going to, even the agents to be going and visiting customers for collection of check or cash. So they were all encouraged to use digital modes of payment, could be any FT or internet payment gateway or and so on. We had also tied up with an agency like Airtel Payment Bank and all, which was there in remote areas where some rural folks could come and deposit small amounts of cash there, and they could get the receipting done. So that was one way of doing it digitally. Secondly, for our renewals also, instead of when we would be sending them renewal reminders, we started giving them payment links so that they could be connecting, just press on the link, make the payment and done. The payment links were sent to the customers from the agents. We provisioned that. This was about the sales side. Now coming to the servicing side, of course, we do have that quick claim settlement AI based. So April, the number of claims were very few, but yes, May onwards, we are finding our quick claim motor settlement through image processing. We have almost 80 cases being settled on a daily basis. Though that number is less, we feel less of accidents are happening. That is good for all. But the numbers, we were able to serve our customers directly, making payment to them, because the garages were closed. But in case of a small accident where the exterior body parts are only impacted and it is within the regulatory limits, we were in a position to satisfy our customers by making payment directly to them. So that way I should thank IBM for having done this for us. We had introduced it about more than a year back. That is about last year, April 19, we went live with it. That has helped us. On the health services also, there was a mandate that all customers who are with us will be covered for COVID hospitalization. That was from the regulators. And recently, as told by Beju, regulators have come up with 2 more COVID-specific products which have been published on our website, on our portal. So whatever we sell, we are providing them through our portal, web portal, as well as through intermediary portal. That is, intermediaries could be selling it or the customer could be buying it on their own. So all this is digitally enabled. That is how we have been serving our business.
So, Anand, if I can bring you in here, like Seema talked about a lot of digital initiatives that she's undertaking right now. Digital is not really new in the sector. In fact, it's one of the quickest adopter of digital. So, in the past few months, what kind of changes have you seen in the adoption level of digital in your organization and overall, if you look at the industry as well?
Just to take over from where Srini and Biju left, I'll first tell you the small impact that the life insurance industry had. As Seema ji was mentioning, IRDA has also given the relaxation to pay the renewals. So all the renewals which were due in the last few days of March and April, there was a further extension of 1 month and then further extension being given. So this renewals was a big impact, I think, which all the companies felt, and we are still going to feel it because of the huge amount of insecurity in the minds of the people as to what is going to happen with their jobs, whether they will continue to do it or not. And more importantly, the second challenge which the life insurers had was, unlike general or non-life, life is face-to-face selling. We had never moved into, in a big way, to get into something which is remote selling or directly the customer coming on the web or on a particular aggregator to buy products. I think all over the country, the online sales is just in very single digit, which is happening. So from a digital angle, the big issue that we had is how do I support the huge banca specified persons and the life agents or the life mitras, as we call them, to do a non-face-to-face kind of a sale, but at the same time follow the entire process that needs to be done for a sale of a life insurance product. Life insurance product, all of us know, is a little complicated as compared to other products. So we had a challenge, but we successfully came out with something called alternate sales process with the help of offline KYC and Insta PIWC, which could be done. So technically today, SBI Life has got an entire alternate sales process which helps the intermediary to directly talk to the customer over phone, and then through this M-Connect application that we have developed, it can be sent to the customer through a Bitly link, and he looks at exactly what is being sold to him. He agrees to it, and then the buying process starts, where if the person is an Aadhaar based person, he can directly get into offline eKYC and get his policy issued right up to the e-repository. So it's completely a paperless, penless kind of an issuance that we have worked out for the people there. The second thing, as challenge, as Seema ji was mentioning, is how do you do the collection part on the renewals? Though customers have been given additional time to pay, but those who wanted to pay, how do you ensure those renewals are collected? So we also had a tie-up with a lot of these service providers like AP Online, MP Online, CSCs and all that, who have helped us to collect payments. And one good trend that we have seen in the month of April, May and June is the huge surge in the digital payment that customers have moved into. So earlier, those who were doing it through bank DDs and cash and all have large amount moved into digital payments. In fact, as of today, when I'm talking to you, all my sourcing, business sourcing, 100% is on digital platform. Renewals, almost 95% is on digital platform. So these two things have worked out very well. The last challenge we had was on the payouts for the annuitants. We have a huge annuity payout customer base, and how do you get the live certificate? How do you ensure that the person is live and we are paying payment to the right guy? And we immediately came out with something called eCOE. COE is the certificate of existence which he has to give. And today, SBI Life customer who has applied for annuities and who is getting annuity can issue a live certificate sitting in his house, just at a click of a button, we can send the link through Bitly link on his mobile, and he can get the certificate done, which also tells us the location from where he did it, the mobile number or the mobile which he has used to send this particular COE to us, including the date and the time, which also enables us to ensure that the person is actually alive and he has done this himself to get it done. So these were some of the technological interventions that we did at a very short notice, where we could do. One good thing we had was that from 2017 itself, we had started moving into digital. So within 72 hours, the Janata lockdown was declared on 22nd, and within 72 hours, we could move the entire organization into work from home, including treasury, including HR, including finance. Everything could be moved to work from home kind of a scenario. So that was a huge benefit that we had. So we had already started, being a State Bank of India subsidy company, we had already started moving in that direction of digital thing. But these things, escalated the whole thing to a much better level, and we could get certain things done which we were experimenting earlier could now be put into actual use.
So some of these projects you talked about, what was the time span you were planning to implement these in?
Work from home, we had already started testing in the month of Jan, Feb. So we were nothing to do with this pandemic thing part of it, but we were just trying to test. Alternate sales process, we had nothing in mind because we already had a digital process which was face-to-face selling, but through digital method, because that is something which is required in life insurance when the sale is happening through an intermediary. But this alternate sale process, we had to accelerate the whole process in a manner where within a span of 1 week, we had to get the whole thing in place and get the structure done. So that is something which we did. eCOE is also just about 10 days time, we could run the whole process, which was just being on an experimental basis. We were trying out something to be done. But the moment this thing happened, we could immediately push in and get things worked out.
The projects that would have taken months were actually finished in just about a few days. That's excellent. Moving on, Arif, if you could talk about some of the challenges that your organization faced, and if you could elaborate on how you have managed to deal with them.
I think COVID started impacting the world somewhere. It started in Jan, right? So Europe and US, the buzz was already around saying, okay, COVID pandemic is going to hit and all this thing. We having a global investor like AXA, we started preparing ourselves as part of AXA global program for this pandemic. Okay, so some of the initiatives which were already in pipeline were fast-tracked that time, and then some of the decisions. So the first priority itself was, we were not worried about the business, but we were more worried about how do we service our customer and how do we make our employees safe and how do we enable employees to work from home and service our customer from home. So luckily, in 2017, sometime back, when we had taken a decision not to buy any desktop. So by virtue of that, we ended up with almost like 80% of population having laptops and other than desktop. And later on, when I spoke to some of my peers and colleagues, the major challenge which people face was how do they make people work from home with desktops and people have to configure and set it all up. So luckily, that was not a challenge for us, but the challenge was how do we make people who are working from home safe, right? So there were like two-factor authentication licenses, though we had VPN enabled, but it was given only for some population, which was like 30-40% of the population to do work from home in past, but now we have to make 100% population work from home. So some of those things needs to be fast-tracked. So like how do we do two-factor authentication? How to make the whole environment secure? Security was another big concern which came up. So there were a lot of malware attacks and all was planned that time. In fact, when China thing happened during the pandemic period, right? So we have to secure our periphery a lot. But I think as Anand mentioned, some of the past digital initiatives that really come handy with this. So we had launched our WhatsApp initiative in the month of January, and we were expecting it to take off in, let's say, 3 to 6 months time. Till the time we educate customer, till the time we do a big bang advertising and all this thing. But in the month of April, we saw 30% of the population of our service tickets were getting addressed through WhatsApp. So people were coming on WhatsApp, taking their renewal notices through WhatsApp, or taking the policy copy through WhatsApp, or even we have seen some people renewing their policy through WhatsApp. So some of those were very interesting aspects, and we were also surprising within a month or time of launch, the initiative has taken off. Then some of the other initiatives like bots and all which we have deployed on website has really helped us. So last year when we were looking at deploying bots, we said more than selling, we should be focusing on customer serving and how do we enable customer to do the self-service and take away the headache from talking to somebody and then understanding and then delivering. So some of these self-service initiatives, which we automated through bots, has really helped. And our all channels, so be it on call center, we have deployed mail bot, call center we have deployed voice bot, and all. We have seen a huge spike on all these channels of self-servicing. Then come to the business side of it. Business side, as I think Seema and everybody spoke about, motor definitely got big hit because there was zero new vehicle sale in the month of April. We have to look for alternate channels. We have to look for alternate businesses. But in that period, we realized there's a potential opportunity in banca. And in bank, because people were not able to sell loans, mortgage, and other products, they were ready to sell third-party products, which are insurance. And we have seen a big spike in banks in terms of health products. So there's a lot of demand. So we have like Axis Bank, we have HDFC as our banca partner. In fact, in HDFC, we did more business than whatever we would have done it last year. Like there was a jump of 70-80% in HDFC, and being HDFC Argo being around there. So that was a big boost for us. And we had launched a couple of health product very quickly in the month of April, and it's all digital journey. So basically, the RM will follow the lead, will convert it, and then will push it to the customer payment link. Customer will pay. So it's end-to-end digital journey, which was launched within 15 days time, and then we have seen a big boost of business coming from there. Similarly, I think somebody spoke about APB. APB, we being a Bharti Group company, we were already engaged with APB in the past. We sell insurance through APB through their platform. And we managed to launch COVID products somewhere in the month of March on APB platform, and we have seen a good interaction with customer on APB platform. Then some of these low ticket renewals and then health products we have seen. So like we had called vector-borne disease product on APB product. We have seen a good interaction of that product on that platform. So some of these low ticket high volume kind of business have started picking up in the health side, which has really helped us in managing during this pandemic time. But yeah, our bread and butter product, which is motor, definitely has hit us badly.
So overall, while we see an impact on business, digital adoption has actually accelerated instead of slowing down.
A lot actually. So earlier, if we had close to 20-25% of digital payment coming in, during this period, we had almost 70% digital payment coming in. And if you look at it on the claim side, I think Seema spoke about the image processing. We had something called video streaming. We had launched this sometime last year in April, May, where we are able to do the claim survey through live video streaming with customer. We had not seen a good adoption. It was like 5 to 7% last year during the normal period. But during this time, we have seen the adoption going as high as 50 to 60% of claim getting settled through video streaming. And a classic example which I want to share it over here and which I keep talking about is there was a two-wheeler accident in Ladakh, and that guy was struggling because we couldn't send surveyor and all. We could manage to settle his claim in 15 minutes time in Ladakh. And that's
something that technology is enabling at this moment. Shailendra, as a service provider, as a technology firm, what kind of challenges did you have to face? Because we've seen everyone talking about acceleration and adoption, but clearly getting things on the ground at this moment has been a challenge for most organizations. So what challenges did IBM have to deal with, and how did you really support your customers?
So Varun, I think I'll break it into two parts. One, as an IBM, as a service provider, we have in India closer to about 70,000 people. And all of us were used to, yes, working from home is a part of IBM culture, but we still had a large workforce, which was not only supporting the Indian customers, but even the global customers in multiple time zones. So how do you safely allow all these people to work from home? And the good news for us was, within about a week's time, we had about almost 97% of IBM global workforce of about 400,000 people working from home. So I think that was the one thing which we had to do. When it comes to our supporting our end customer part, I think I would break it into two parts. One, the initial 45 days of pandemic, getting declared, if I could call it in India. That time, as the other panelists were talking about, it was all how do you support employees and end customer in new ways of working, which is like working from home. So we had requests like, can we get X number of laptops? IBM does not sell laptops, but we did support a lot of our customers through our partnership in terms of how can we make them laptops available within a day's time. Second thing which was there was that the load which was coming, either from an employee as well as from their customers on the customer care portals or the channels, information dissemination itself was becoming an issue. So we worked with our Watson platform and we were able to launch at least 4 chatbots addressing a large customer base in terms of how do you go ahead and address the basic questions which either your employee or your customer has, right? So that's what we were able to do it from a customer care and customer servicing perspective. The third area was security. I think every one of us were realizing that, working from home is great, but it's going to introduce new amount of security threats. Leveraging our global capability and the local capability. Today, if you look at, in spite of security threats increasing almost 4-fold, we were able to work with our customers and support them from a security perspective also. So the good news is today, if you look at out of all our employee base which is there in India, yes, we support certain critical services which has been declared by government, but we have been able to support each and every of our customers without dilution of any of the service levels over the period of time. So that was the first 45 days. In the next phase, if I could call it, when things started opening up, people had become used to, we are seeing 2-3 things where the demand has certainly surged. One, if you look at insurance, everybody had invested in the front-end digital to support the sales and the customer service. What had not happened is, how do you ensure that a transaction or a request is concluded completely digitally with as little as human intervention possible? So today we are working with large number of our customers in basically ensuring not only front-end digitization, but end-to-end digitization of a process whereby loads reduces, from a transaction perspective. The second thing which we are seeing very categorically is this whole call center, the customer care centers which is there, they are inundated with the work. And when you have people working from a remote location, of course, your capacity to handle the load is also reduces. So we have launched with quite a few of our customers, our cognitive care technology, where we are able to automatically address a lot of queries, which is the repetitive in the nature which comes from our customers. So that's the second area which we are working on it. And the third area which we are very clearly working on it, and that's we are seeing in last, I would say 45 days, where our end customers are coming and saying is that my recovery of a business is uncertain. I don't know whether it will happen in 1 month or another 6 months time. I don't know when the pandemic is going to get over. Can you really help us, in some fashion, variabilize my cost, variabilize my bottom line? And what we are talking about here is in terms of more adoption of cloud. And thanks to our hybrid cloud story, which we have, we are working with quite a few customers in variabilizing the cost base which is there so that it can remain in tune with the business growth which is there. So I think those are the 3 things which we are doing from a supporting, our end customer perspective.
I think, Shannon, you brought out an interesting point about the pressure on cost and how you are helping. Let's try and understand from our other panelists how they are managing costs. So, Seema, you specifically talked about multiple projects and also accelerating those projects. When it comes to cost, it's kind of an oxymoron. You're implementing more, but there is pressure on cost. So how are you really managing that?
To talk about ongoing projects, yes, we have to cater to them, and there is investment in that. But yes, the priorities have been set not to take up new projects immediately, which are not impacting your business immediately. Like customer servicing, we had thought of to enhance the customer experience. We had thought of taking up few projects, whether it was for claim settlement or for other purposes. But then those have been prioritized in a way that which is impacting my direct sale, or it could be a revenue saving for the company that should be taken up. Like, for instance, pre-inspection, we are going to introduce AI for pre-inspection of vehicles, especially the personal cars, where the customer could do the pre-inspection by himself or herself after the break-in, and those could be renewed or insured with us. So that is one area where we are investing, but yes, at the same time, some of the areas have taken a back seat with regards to the capex. And as far as the operating expenditure is there, yes, as told by Arif, we are also going for lots of laptops being procured. We do have about 80% of the staff was having laptop, but now the mandate has come that 100% of them should be owning a laptop. Yes, there are exceptions, even like me, I prefer to work on a desktop with a big screen. I don't want to work on a small screen. So I do have a laptop, but it is only for when I'm not in my office. Otherwise, we have many such people who use maybe public transport, so they don't prefer carrying laptop every day home. So they had left their laptops in office when the lockdown was announced. So then it was a hassle there. So now it is a mandate that yes, you have to go in for all laptops mandatorily for all employees. This is
Just
one.
getting laptops for everyone would be a big cost in itself.
Yes, yes. So this is something like, but yes, IT cost is still being considered that yes, there would be slight, could be 1 or 2% increase in the investment, but not decline. Whereas all other expenditure in the organization, which was not mandatory, has been put on hold for the moment. So that is how the business is running.
That's actually excellent, because we actually ran a survey 2 months ago, and we wanted to assess what's the impact on IT budgets. And most of the respondents actually said that they expect the budgets to actually go down instead of going up. Anand, you also talked about a lot of new projects, not just the old ones, but also new projects. How has the impact been on the budget, and how are you really managing costs?
In SBI Life, the impact on the budget as far as IT is concerned is not too big. The reason is, if you traditionally see at my cost ratios and the expense of IT expense on the total cost and all, I am the lowest in the industry. And we have something called a DG Lab, which we have started way back in 2017, where we do a lot of experimentations on the technologies and bring in, and most of the things what I mentioned to you, whether it is the M Connect app or the Smart Advisor Plus app or the ECOI or the chatbot, and all have been internally developed by my team in the organization itself. But yes, I would split this into two ways. One is, as Arif and Seemaji mentioned, cost of laptop is one thing, but availability of the laptop was a big challenge. Okay, so obviously all of us know that China stopped exporting. People are not getting from there. So where will you get these laptops from? So procurement of laptop itself was a huge problem. You can look at it in two ways as to how this pandemic has really hit. It hit us in a big way at the end of March and beginning of April. So I think all organizations, whichever segment, whichever industry you look at, stopped looking at new projects in the new financial year. So whatever up to March was going on, you allowed it to go. And I think all of us are in the same boat, that whatever projects have already been approved and started, that continues to grow. But yes, what we have done in SBI Life is that those projects which are going to help us in the operational efficiency and help us in giving better customer service, we have taken a call that we will not stop it. For example, robotics. Robotics, we are going into a very, very big way. We have already started working on that. And that is something which we have decided that though it's an expense for us in this financial year, we will still go with it, because we know that the end result is going to be positive for the company in the long run. So wherever we have projects which are going to give us benefit in the long run, IT has not gone and cut down budgets on those fronts. But yes, are we looking at reducing cost? Definitely, as an organization, we are looking at reducing cost. The biggest thing, I think, the cost on travel by the marketing guys have gone down drastically, but video conferencing calls have gone up. So obviously, you will have a much bigger budget coming on that particular side and expense coming on that particular side. I think hotel industry and travel industry, airline industry is going to not like this, but that's the new normal that I'm looking at, that people are not traveling. Still, they are having conferences. Still, they are doing even conventions on a national basis, which is happening, which is virtual. And that is obviously going to increase the cost to a large extent. So these are certain costs which I think every organization will move into that, and they will look at how to replace certain things. But in today's scenario, I think every organization will look at a 10 to 20% reduction in the variable cost and the fixed cost that we look at. I think even if somebody achieves that, I think it will be a big thing for maintaining the current level of operations and still reducing the cost by almost 10 to 20%. That's a big challenge which I think people will be facing in this financial year. That is my take on this.
Excellent. But I think in a way, it's a lot easier to get a management buy-in into IT projects than it used to be.
Yes and no, because what happens is normally, the larger projects used to be discussed in a big way for IT. Now that's obviously not going to happen. Like somebody is going to go and completely change a PMS system. That decision might not happen in this financial year. Or somebody is going to move away from their existing HRMS system and get a completely new HRMS system, which is going to cost you a few crores. I'm not sure whether an organization would take a decision of that nature at this point of time. But yes, something which is going to help customer service, something which is going to bring faster, speed in delivery of the service, or maybe procurement of business. Definitely, companies will put a lot of effort, and that will be, I think, on a priority as of this point of time, which we already see organizations taking a call on that.
Absolutely. Srini, if I can bring you in here to understand the role of IT in the insurance companies today. So, we've talked about costs because a lot of organizations treated IT as a cost. But are you seeing IT becoming an enabler of business? Because if you look at some of the areas where companies are investing today, without those, insurance companies wouldn't be even able to work in this pandemic. So, how is that really shifting, according to you?
See, frankly, there had already been a transition from an IT being a cost center to an enabler. I think the organizations which use the terminology IT is a cost center would have probably ceased to exist or on their way out. The fact is, because over this last few years, and pandemic had been one major, shift, a titanic shift, but still a shift to speed up in that direction. Whether you talk about digitization, whether you talk about automation, whether you talk about moving to a cloud, all this had started much earlier. The fact that the companies way back in 2008-10 had started getting into tablet-based solution for their sellers to be able to do it. And right or wrong, it's been the newcomer small companies which had actually done an excellent amount of trend setting on technology, which later on percolated to the large big guys and everybody else. That's so. In that extent, I would differ in saying that this trend has happened for quite some time. What has happened now as a shift is the CIO, CTO, IT head, whichever designation you call, happens to be now at the center of any strategic discussion on a business related activity. Now, whether it being, for example, if a sales channel is to talk about, I want to come up with a new model on sales, you would find that even in that basic discussion, the IT head is there. And that would be a tectonic shift. The way I look at it is because even the sales head or an operations head gets to very clearly know that his strategy or an idea is very largely dependent on technology, in which the way it can convert a particular dream or an idea into fruitification. So to that extent, IT has become a basic part of the organization. In fact, I would say the way things have changed and the way digitization is accepted by the consumers, right? While India is, I have a slightly different view there. India is still a largely cash economy. Okay, first 90 days after demonetization, any panel speaker, anyone you speak, would always say that all this technology is there in place, and everybody will only do a digital, and there's a digital revolution. 120 days after the demonetization, the cash in the economy was virtually 75% of what it was before the demonetization. A large part of that would also happen now. But the fundamental difference is with every such major shift, you see a set of people moving towards technology adoption, and they would never come back, right? So that's what is a big heartening thing, and that is where technology will go a much longer. I would even dare to say, tomorrow's insurance company or another 3 years from now, I wouldn't be surprised if at least there are 2 or 3 insurance companies where the CEO is a technologist himself or a person from a technology background, because technology is become business. Now today, some of the world-renowned names like Lemonade, etc., we get to hear some of them on their novel methods. What is a novelty in this? It's entirely run on a technology platform. So you'll find that technology now becomes primary. The model, whether we like to listen to this or not, it becomes secondary. Because technology then gives you the engine, the lever, and the methodology to reach to the last consumer. So I feel that is the big change that's happening, and that will only get intensified in the coming years. As far as life insurance industry is concerned, this industry related to a general insurance industry had its own challenge in terms of adoption, because life insurance is a long-term contract. You need to do a lot of face-to-face selling, etc. Having said that, a part of this was also because you attributed some reason that you wanted to be face-to-face. So digitization or automation took a second seat. Now with all these changes, what's happening is you see also the customer ready to do, like somebody said, paperless, penless type of an purchase process or even a service. You would see that getting even more prominent. And that's how I see the technology as an enabler, and technology as an ingrained component of every conversation you have.
Absolutely.
I would even dare to say that the way that you see a IT head or a CTO is dead. He becomes the chief evangelist officer, if I can borrow a terminology, and he encompasses not only the technology and the digital capability, he also has this uncanny skill set to be able to convert or visualize a strategy and then say what is a technology solution to go to market. And then that is how his role or her role has become so critical.
In fact, if you look at some of the biggest competitors that traditional companies have started looking at, a bank doesn't see another bank as the only competitor. They also see technology companies as one of their biggest competitors. Same for telecom, same for many other industries. So it won't be a surprise when we see most of the CEOs coming from the IT side in the insurance sector as well.
I mean, just to add to that, you're absolutely right. I mean, you would soon see, and my view is 3 to 5 years horizon, you would get driven to a fact where N is equal to 1 concept, where N is 1 product for 1 customer, or one. So each one gets a customized insurance product. It's a dream, and people would just laugh off by saying that's not possible. There are so many things on actuarials and so on and so forth. My only answer to that is till a few years back, the actuarial was supposed to be only scientists working behind, doing some mathematical model. Today, 80% of their mathematical model is done by various modeling solutions.
Absolutely. Biju, if you have to talk about the changes in the customer requirements, N equal to 1 may not be a reality right now, but what kind of changes in expectations are you seeing just in the past few months?
Yeah, so, if 3 months back, when ETA or IBM would have told us, this is on our way, we would have actually laughed at it. But today, actually, this pandemic or the crisis, the reality is that, everyone is thinking like a digital company. All of a sudden, we were heading the technology earlier, even today. So there will be written document about pre-COVID and what would be the post-COVID, IT heads, definitely. Because we are changing, we are learning in every day during this crisis. So the COVID-19 crisis has highlighted the weaknesses. It actually throws us on face what are the weaknesses you are sitting on and the strength you are actually acquired during the period of time. So it has a serious effect on livelihoods of people. So it's important that as a technologist, put people on the first and draw the technology. When I said people as a customer, people as a distributor, people as an employee, how do you ensure that our technologies are aligned to their effectiveness in the workplace? They're working from anywhere. Okay. So this is going to be the major shift than just enabling digital onboarding of customer, because we were to focus before COVID-19 to onboarding customers, simplifying their experience. It's not enough. Now we need to care about employees, right? And the workplace safety, workplace flexibility. So technology has to get infused into those areas as well. And that is equally important, like we treat for a customer experience, our distributor experience as well. Along with that, you're making balance sheet and the cost structure more resilient. I won't see, even myself, I was focusing on efficiency. Now I am building for resilience, scalability. So the priority changes because of the experience itself. Of course, scalability was in my focus, but these lessons teach us to change and shift the technology towards addressing the most important aspects, people, right? So technology is building safety, flexibility, productivity in our operations, the utmost importance, and not just efficiency. It's all about productivity. So, and it's important that as a technologist, or as a I have to ensure my peers, my sales guys, my HR, my operations guys do system thinking in a corporate decisions. When I decide about a process change, I need to infuse system decisions in them. So my role is changed from a technologist to, like Srini, I think put a nice word around it, is, I mean, I don't know what was the meaning of that particular name, but that's the way changing the role. I mean, so it's a skill, problem solving skill. Of course, it has to be there. There's a skill change, and there is definitely way of seeing through and differently towards the people. So that's where the major change is happening.
One of the aspects of looking at people is actually self-service tools. We've seen automation tools coming in. We've seen chatbots coming in. Arif, you talked about robotics being implemented, and you're looking at it seriously. When it comes to bots and when it comes to interacting with bots, it's not often a very comfortable scenario, and some organizations and a lot of customers have faced that challenge. How do you see the future of man-machine interfaces really working out when it comes to the usage of bots?
So, Varun, I think I read it somewhere, and I strongly believe in that future of applications, the future of systems is conversational system. So it's not going to be form-based. It's not going to be somewhere on somebody's mainframe or laptop or desktop. This is going to be conversational. Okay, and slowly you see the world changing towards that. So the most highly used platforms in terms of technology world today are textual based, conversational based. We talk about WhatsApp, WeChat, or Facebook, or Twitter, or some of those words, right? Some of these are ways of communicating and conversing with either the world, open world, or with your colleagues, your friends, your families, or your school friends or college friends. You would have, in normal scenario, you would have forgotten long time back, right? But now today I am able to connect to my first grade classmate because of let's say WhatsApp group, or let's say Facebook Connect, or some of those technologies are enabling me. So that's given, and with that given, you need to make sure that how efficient your bots are able to chat or handle the intent of the customer and then reply back to their queries. Okay. As I said, when we launched WhatsApp, we were not expecting it to be a big success during that period, but as the environment changes and the constraints become bigger, and I think people had the constraint of not able to get out of their office, not able to go to branches being closed down, not able to reach to the intermediary, or intermediary is not able to come to them. And there are so many constraints were there during this lockdown phase, right? So people have adopted technology, and people became conversant with technology. People have started realizing the value the technology brings without talking to anybody. If they are able to get their renewal, if they are able to get their claim service done and all those things, they are happy with it, right? So they don't need to get out of their office. And today, if somebody will ask you to go to or somebody's office or branch for buying an insurance policy, I'm sure you will defer that decision rather than going and saying, okay, I'll take a risk of going out and then buying an insurance policy or renewing my insurance. But if you have an option available where you can do it on your WhatsApp or that's on your web mobile or wherever, I think people will happily do it. So that these are what the constraints actually enable people to change their behavior. So, and that's what we have seen happening in terms of during this lockdown phase. And once you get used to and addicted to a technology, I'm sure you'll keep adopting it. It's like when Facebook has come in, nobody has thought that it will be so popular, right? But today Facebook is so popular. WhatsApp is like the medium of communicating, even though you could have picked up a phone and talked to somebody. Today, you prefer dropping a message to him, assuming if he is busy, he might not take my call. But if even if he's in some call or something else, he'll read my WhatsApp and reply back to me. So then WhatsApp has become so that's why once you get hooked to a technology, the adoption automatically start increasing. And then this constraint of people movement has definitely helped enabling adoption of technology, which we have seen a big boost in terms of adoption. So it's like 40% of customer service transaction not happening on a call center, but happening on a WhatsApp itself is a proof saying people are willing to adopt technology. Yeah, but it will take some time to mature and will take some time to answer complex queries. But yeah, that's the way it's going to be because I strongly believe that the future of systems will be conversational. It will not be form based. It will not be like a website. So generally in our technology discussions, we give an example. When in earlier world, in the physical world, when you used to walk to a branch, people doesn't used to dump with so many pamphlets saying I have this product, I have motor, I have two-wheeler, I have this, that product. Right? There's a conversation which happens between the branch representative and you, and then he provides a solution to you, which is required for a customer. But in today's world, if you go to a website, what you will see on a website, it's all about the whole product, but the customer doesn't know what he wants to do it, right? So we see a world moving towards conversational. We see world changing from whatever form-based platform or systems to conversational, which will be bots, and then RPAs will take it over.
I think IBM would be the perfect candidate to talk about this.
So Varun, I think I forgot to mention IBM. So IBM was a great help in handling some of these constraints which we had during the pandemic, and they have been our infra partner. They were great help in some of these challenges which we had during this lockdown period. So a great thanks to IBM.
So Shailendra, a lot of appreciation coming your way. Can you talk about what RF started discussing about the conversational AI, the conversational aspect of bots? What we've seen mostly is, a very one-way conversation happening. You have some options, you click on that, or you have to talk in a particular way. But we've seen demos of technology wherein, a bot can call someone on your behalf and book an appointment for you. In some parts of the world, we are already seeing them being implemented. But when it comes to actual implementation in India and maybe in a sector like insurance, how far off are we from that kind of an advanced conversational AI technology?
So Varun, first of all, thank you for a couple of panelists. We really, appreciate that, we were able to stand with you and support you during this pandemic period. Coming back to this whole bots or the automation part of it, I think in this industry, Seema gave an example of the product which we had launched with her sometime last year and the success which she has seen in terms of settling the claims. I think what we are seeing a fundamental shift happening right now is there were a lot of bots being tried by a lot of organizations, but I would say it was still working in the pilot phase of it. Just last week we were talking to a CEO of a large organization, and his challenge to us was, I don't want to hear the word about the bot part of it or A technology or a B technology. My mantra is very clear. Post-COVID, can you help us just reimagine my entire workflow? And by the way, he did not use the word process. There's a difference between the two, between the process and workflow. He says, can you look at my entire workflow and follow three principles? One, eliminate whatever redundancy which I have. Because over a period of time, any large organization, including within IBM, we do have processes which becomes redundant over a period of time. The second thing which he says is, can you simplify it and then you go ahead and automate it? So when we look at the bots or any of the technology being utilized, it could be script-based technology to a high-end models which we have created. I think it is all about at what stage I'm able to automate the process. So just to give you in case of Seema, today we are able to work with her in terms of educating a claims process where it's completely self-serve, completely technology. Similarly, if you look at, we are working with quite a few other organizations in terms of on the customer contact center side. They have thousands of people, but the number of calls which they come or the numbers of emails which they get is a repetitive. Can you go ahead and automate 90-95%? So this human interface will happening, and believe me, you will be surprised to know that today our consumers within India as well at times are far more happier to get those quick answers and the correct answers than going through the hoops of answering questions. And that's where we are saying is that whether it's through cognitive care, whether it's through Watson chart or analytical based model, we are working with multitude of organization where we are able to look at your personal contact history, your data, and we are able to create a product. Srini talked about N plus one. Believe me, N plus one is not far. You know, there are organizations in industry today which is able to customize product specific to your requirement and recommend to you at the right point of a time. So I think our belief is that automation from a POC phase, bots from a POC phase will straight away move into the center stage. It is already moving, but I think this pandemic will virtually force people to really go ahead and make sure that they are adopting it at an enterprise scale.
So the solutions are already there. It's more about adoption now.
Absolutely. Solution is always there. Digital was always there. I think you need to have some live event, right? The demonetization happens, look at the number of transactions which moved on site. I think pandemic, if you look at, I was talking to another large organization in India. Pre-COVID, they used to have about 21% of the transaction coming through the digital channel. In the month of May and June, they were hovering between 60 to 65% of the transaction through digital channel. Right? So the shift which is happening is so fundamental. And unless and until you have automation, it has to be as little as possible human touch. Because the moment you have more human intervention, your end-to-end process digitization will still remain a dream.
Absolutely. I'll take one final comment from
Yeah, I just had one thing to add here, if I can. I think in all this digitization, we have to be careful enough to understand one thing, that this country is actually polarized, and polarized into two types. One where it is digitally challenged, and not just digitally challenged. You have a set of people who would want to see a brick and mortar, independent of the digital. The simple reason being, we have seen enough and more frauds in the fintech industry that's happened. All start with the right intention, then you have all these websites garner some thousands of crores and you vanish off. So there's also the thing that's there in the mind of the people, that what's there on the net, does it really exist? I think one very important thing, and I think very important point is, we all can say that, no, we are all insurance companies, so nothing will happen. It's end of the day, the customer judges you. You will always judge yourself 100% best and truthful, honest, everything. The customer needs to judge you, and there's a segment of customers who would want to be very particular that he's looking at a physical location. If it's there, then he knows that this organization exists. And very interestingly, one of the biggest source of cross-sell, upsell lead for any insurance company, whether it's life, general, or health in India today, is from customers who walk into the branch. Now, I don't think that people have really cracked that bit of being able to move it completely digital, because that's where there is something called as a personal relationship. And I think the biggest challenge for us to really cross over that hump is to say, what solutions that I bring to be able to continue to strengthen the same level of relationships in a non-physical world. And I think the ones who have cracked this will be able to get to that part of the country, because otherwise there is always this polarization.
I think the only industry that's cracked that is the e-commerce industry, because initially when the Amazon and Flipkarts of the world came in, people were worried that there's no physical address. If there's some problem, where do I go to? But I think because of the customer experience that they worked on, they've been able to come over that.
Yeah, the only difference that I will say is in an e-commerce, let's say you order something from one of these e-commerce firm, You pay 100 rupees and you get some product. And if it is lost, your stop loss is only 100 rupees. And imagine on an insurance company when somebody tries to pay everything online and he is given a promise that should something happen to you when you're dead, we will take care of you. The whole paradigm shift is completely different. So he needs to get assured upfront that this ecosystem is going to support me for many more years to come.
So the trust level required would be much, much higher.
Much higher, and therefore the medium in which you interact, whether it's technology, service, people, etc., would be very, very critical. And you need to have an omni-channel. For example, the fastest growing segment in Japan today is a physical call center. People are ready to pay money to speak to you for long. The bots is failing miserably. It also depends on what you want, because if you go to an insurance company's website and keep adding a conversational piece, you know that by the time you come to the third question, it would say that, let me connect you to my supervisor, and through whom you have to say from start. And I think we need to. These are little blips in the screen, and not to say that digitization won't, but one has to be very, very careful that there is a large segment which relies on omni-channel. So you need to cater to them and slowly get them onto your digital board so that it comes with confidence and therefore they stay with you for longer years.
Absolutely.
That's a different perspective.
Anand, you talked about increasing investments in bots. Can you talk about how different would that be compared to what we are talking about? Getting to the third level becomes a challenge and ultimately the whole conversation breaks apart. So are you looking at going beyond that with the bot journey?
No, currently, because I also head the operations and international operations for business for the company, when I look at IT investment, I look at these things also. That today, where do I use this investment in the more beneficial manner? So when we looked at the getting into the bots, we looked at the operational systems and the processes where you have being one of the largest companies, we have these huge numbers of very same mundane kind of work happening and large numbers being churned out. So we have basically looked at these kind of processes which are standardized, huge in numbers, and then get into that and help it. It could be renewals, it could be policy servicing. Just to give you an example, exactly what Srini was mentioning about the shift. Initially when State Bank of India came to us when they launched YONO, and they said that we want you to give an insurance product, and the challenge thrown at me was the customer should not give more than 3 clicks, and you have to issue an insurance policy. And sum assured that they were looking out was anywhere in excess of 10 lakhs. So normally you will understand that even for a 50-year-old today, if I have to give a 20 lakh or a 30 lakh or a 40 lakh, and that too just on 3 clicks, the kind of pressure I have from the reinsurer and my underwriters would be tremendous. But we could successfully do that because we see that this is going to be the real challenge tomorrow. What Biju was mentioning, it's not about how you're going to use things. I'll be surprised, exactly what Srini mentioned. Very soon you might see a sachet insurance coming in on the life side. And when I mean sachet insurance, one company has already introduced a 28-day life insurance product, which was never heard even 1 year back. Now, if I have to get into that kind of mode and the kind of volumes that SBI Life manages, I need to have something which is beyond human intervention. To give you an example, we are almost the largest in terms of, after LIC, in terms of Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. Just now, we just renewed about, say, more than 72 lakh lives. To managing such a huge, it's like a factory. Typically like a factory, you put, it's a fully mechanized factory where you put raw material from one side just on the button, and everything is so systematized that on the other end, you get your product ready to be sold in the market. Here, everything is sold. The COI is already issued. I only have to bill it and then go and take care of the servicing part of it. Same is the case with YONO. And again, Shailendra has been the partner for IBM and State Bank. So he knows the kind of issues that we have faced to get YONO in 3 clicks. Today, in 3 clicks, you can get a term insurance on a GTLI platform up to 20 lakhs. So we had to use algorithm to find out whether this customer is really worth giving him 20 lakhs. So we had to put an AI in the system, we had to put an ML in the system, we have to ensure that the data flows correctly. Even at 11:55 at night, if that person is there sitting and wants to buy a policy on YONO, he can do it. And they actually do it. So how do I, as a company, without investing so much into human resource, still go and give the same kind of service? As Biju and Srini said, today people will not be bothered. How are you managing your backend? I want my policy after the third click is over. That's it. That's the expectation that a person will have. And if I say, no, it has to be underwritten, you have to go for medicals, he says, sorry, somebody else is ready to give me. Today, my competition is not a life insurance company. Today, my competition is Flipkart. Today, my competition is Amazon. If Amazon and Flipkart can sell a product in two clicks, why is it that I can't sell a product in 2 clicks? If they can give a product at 50 lakhs of sum assured or 40 lakhs of sum assured without medicals, including COVID, why is it that I can't give? Because that's the expectation. We ourselves have increased the expectations of the customer, and now we have to ensure that we meet those expectations. So that is the area where we have looked at. The only reason why I brought this is because we have analyzed which are the areas where the expectation is very high. There is nothing too much that the human can do, but we are putting a lot of human resource in that. So these are processes which can take care. The bots can take the process, because we are not into very high grade, because we have still not started robotics. This is the first time we are implementing robotics to try and see how it is going to help us. So we have worked out some internal metrics on what is it that we are going to achieve at the end of it. And we have worked out about some 40-50 processes that we are looking at on the operation side as to if I implement robotics, what all can I get? And within a year time, I will see the impact coming in. And obviously that impact will further help me to reduce my cost, improve my customer service, improve my net promoter score, and ensure that my customer actually gets the service delight or customer delight all of us talk of, but seldom we actually realize that the customer is not getting it. And I'm talking it from the customer point of view, not from a service provider point of view. Tomorrow, if I am the customer and if I am expecting this from an insurance company, I expect it. I don't care how he does it. And that's the same thing with all of us. Tomorrow you have a problem with a telecom company, we just go and tell him, that's none of my business. Please get this thing done. The same thing is what the insurance customer is also expecting. And irrespective of the area, as Srini rightly said, a huge portion of the population still is in semi-urban and rural areas. 47% of my bank assurance business comes from semi-urban and rural areas. I need to provide the same kind of service to Ladakh, where there is an SBI branch, and the same kind of service to maybe Bharuch and Kutch, where there's an SBI branch, without any stoppage.
Right.
That's the bigger challenge. And that challenge I have to meet without increase of human resource, because that's something which all companies are today putting a block to save cost. So this is the challenge that I think the technology guys are going to face, as to how do you meet this challenge and at the same time ensure you provide absolute service that the customer expects from you, even in difficult times. Like for example, COVID claims. Every day evening, we have to send a statement how many COVID claims we have settled.
Mm-hmm.
And the offices are not working. Your branches are in containment areas. They are not allowed to open. Though we are under essential services, regularly people come and ask us, how have you kept open? How many numbers? Are you exceeding 10%, 20%? They are doing their work. What I'm trying to say is that in spite of all these constraints that insurance company faces, we still go and settle claims. And that's something, the biggest challenge that we have. So we have looked at each of these processes. Where is it that the robotics can actually help us to deliver faster, deliver better, and at the same time, over a period of time, reduce my cost in these things.
Thanks so much, Anand. With that, we've run out of time. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining in. It was an excellent discussion. We looked at various aspects of insurance and, we had a consensus that although costs are a concern, the increasing expectations from the customer is forcing everyone to invest in innovative ways to make sure that digitization is on the super express highway right now. So with that, we hope the insurance industry to completely transform in the next few months. And thank you so much for joining in. Stay tuned for more such sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.